Hello, everyone. Welcome to round 8 of the Paris 1900 tournament, won by Emanuel Lasker. In this round, he's playing a guy named George Marco. And at this point in the tournament, I believe Lasker has won all of his games except for the game he lost against Marshall. But he won round 7, won round 1 to 5. So he's doing pretty well. In this position, Lasker is white. And I guess the question is simply, pause your video and tell me how you would play this position for white. All right, so I'm going to talk about what happened now. So if you're still thinking, make sure you pause your video. So when you look at this position, honestly, it looks about even. Um, the rook on d4 is active, and if white takes this, black takes this. And it's very hard to see where any advantage lies, because if knight c5, just rook e2, check, followed by rook g, or followed by bishop to d5 maybe, and white has nothing. Other possibilities are simply knight to c5. And after rook takes, knight takes, bishop c6. But okay, there's no reason white should have any real advantage in this position. Black is completely solid, white has double pawns. Just nothing really going on here. So, I mean, when I saw this position, I was figuring, the game's probably going to be a draw. However, Lasker, one thing he's good at is creating imbalances. And that's what he does here. He plays the move knight takes b5. Doesn't look that great after rook takes e4. But white goes back to c3, rook to d4, and now he simply trades. Now why does this make sense? Well, basically after rook takes, knight takes, his plan is twofold. Either win this a pawn or trade the b3 pawn for the a5 pawn, and then he has an imbalance. He has a passed pawn. So, this is the one way that Lasker can kind of get something interesting out of this position. So after knight takes, bishop f3. This was a key moment for black. The best defense, and feel free to pause this and try to figure out what black should do here if you were trying to defend this position. Because there's exactly one way to defend and get an okay position, and that's bishop to d5. And now after knight c3, the idea is knight takes bishop followed by knight to b7, winning the a pawn. You should play knight e7, knight takes, pawn takes. And now after knight b7, knight c6, and black has everything under control. So black was still okay, but he had to find the one path. And unfortunately, he didn't. He went bishop f3. And now knight c4 is coming. And he defends the pawn, but after knight b7, white's going to win it. And now what was interesting is, okay, black went knight to d4 and then bishop to d5, with ideas of knight takes b3, for example, or knight f3. And white could defend with knight d2 and just kind of defend passively here, but I think he was worried that the king would just come in and white would have a hard time untangling his pieces. So what he did is he just gave up his b-pawn. And his plan now was that this passed b-pawn was going to be enough to win the game, the outside passed b-pawn. So, from that original position, Lasker basically just found a way to get something, some kind of advantage. And this knight takes b5 move, it's a bit anti-intuitive in some sense. It looks like the black rook gets to go active after rook takes e4. But this position, white has really serious chances. And he does, he waltzes his king right in to the heart of the position in d4. H5 is a little interesting, but I think the idea is if king to d6, white can always trade, because take, the outside passed pawn will win in the king and pawn endgame. So after now, king c6, knight to e5. And the big plan is we want to get our king to c5. So he could have went king c5 right away. I assume he was worried about something like this, followed by the king walking in and taking some pawns off. So first he fixed the pawn position, and now knight to c4. King c5 looked okay too. b4. And And you see this pawn is just causing all kinds of problems now. Knight d6, b7, knight b5. And the idea is after king takes pawn, the king waltzes in and captures all of black's pawns. There's no way he's going to stop us from getting the kingside pawns after knight. Well, knight f5 I think worked too, but knight e6 is easier. And now knight to f4, and the game is over. White won very easily from this point. So I like this game because I looked at this position and I just didn't see I didn't see a clear path forward here for white. And Houdini, again, will say the position's even, but from a practical standpoint, you give your opponent something to worry about now, that the potential passed b-pawn later, and you require him to find this only sequence. This is like the only way to cleanly defend for black. Everything else gives white some clear initiative. So I like this game a lot. I like seeing the stronger player find a way to win in pretty even positions. Like this looks like an even position, but Lasker found a way to pull it out by creating this passed b-pawn imbalance. So thanks guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow with another game from this tournament. Bye-bye.